we're at the beginning of the first chapter of Shekalim. And we're going to get into questions as to who needs to give. And it might be useful just to recap on the verses that we looked at the other day. The verses from Kitisa. Because they're very specific. Kitisa at Rosh B'nai Israel, when you take a census of the people of Israel, lifkudehem, for the counting, v'natzanu ish kofer nafsho, every ish, every man, give the atonement for his soul. So this seems to apply, in terms of the biblical verse, it seems to apply to men, not to women. And it only seems to apply to those who are counted. And the verse goes on to say, Kol ha'over ala pukudim, everyone who passes the census. Kol ha'over ala pukudim, everyone who passes the census. Miben esrim shana v'mala, from 20 years old, Yiten Trumat Adonai, will give the truma, will give the census. It seems as though you have to be a man, and you have to be over 20, and you have to be in the census in order to be liable to give. Let's just try to hold these three things in our minds as we revisit the Mishnah. We're on the third Mishnah, and we're going to start with the timeline, by the way. Just
Is anyone else having problems with the sound quality?
I can't hear him at all.
Yeah, I can't either.
I was just about to do something in the chat.
We just said
sorry,
something.
you just, okay. Did you just lose sound there?
Yes.
We lost sound about a minute or two ago.
You're back.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Let me just wind back. I'm sorry about this. Let me just wind back. So we looked at the verses that seem to specify that in order to contribute, you needed to be a man, and you needed to be over 20, and you needed to have gone through the census. Did you catch that part?
That was the last part we heard.
Okay, fine. So now okay, that's great. So now let's jump into the Mishnah. And we began the timeline yesterday, and we learned that the process of collecting the half shekel begins on the 1st of Adar. On the 1st of Adar, they make the announcement about the shekels. And on the 15th, various other things happen. They read the Megillah in walled cities, they fix the roads and the streets and the mikvaot, and all kinds of things are happening on the 15th. But this is just in parallel with the collection of the Shekalim, because we know that the financial year of the Mishkan, of the temple, begins on the 1st of Nisan. The temple was erected on the 1st of Nisan. Its operational year runs from the 1st of Nisan to the end of Adar. So come the 1st of Nisan, we need to go out and buy new sacrifices. So these this money is going to be required on the 1st of Nisan. We make an announcement on the 1st of Adar, but we need the funds in by the 1st of Nisan. So what are we going to do? Let's jump in on Mishnah 3. On the 15th, so halfway through the month, 15th of Adar,
Try again.
okay, are we back now?
Just at this moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know. It seems to be that when I get to this Mishnah, the wife somehow the Zoom throws me out. I don't know why. Let's have another try. Let's have another try. And anyway, let's try again. So on the 15th of the month, that's the 15th of Adar. We're halfway through the month. We're 2 weeks away from when the money is needed. Shulchanot hayu yoshvin ba'munida. Money changers would sit in the province. Well, the text says ba'medina, and I translated that as in the province. But we don't really know what the province is. Rambam would say ba'medina means in Jerusalem, and most other commentators say it will actually refer to any other city in the land of Israel. We're not sure. But anyway, on the 15th, the money changers are there. Why is that? Well, we need to contribute a half shekel. But if someone doesn't have exactly a half shekel, they'll need to change money. But Esrim v'chamisha yashvu b'mikdash, and on the 25th they'd sit in the temple. So by the 25th, this is getting urgent. We need to collect the money. So they're sitting in the temple. So you can come to the temple. We're bringing whatever coinage you like, and you can get your half shekel. Mishi yashvu b'mikdash, and once they're sitting in the temple, hitchilu le-mashken. Hitchilu le-mashken. So once they're sitting in the temple, they begin to take pledges. So you don't necessarily have to pay up front. For people who can't pay up front or who don't want to pay up front, they will give a pledge. And actually, it appears they're going to go out to people who live locally and they're going to demand pledges, even if those people don't come to the temple. So from the 25th, they're taking pledges for donations. This sounds not very different, actually, from a modern campaign, from a modern funds collection campaign. Et mi mamashkanin. So who do they take pledges from? So Levim, Ve'Yisraelim, Gerim, Va'avadim, Shuchrarim, Avalonashim, Va'avadim, Kutanim. So that who do we take pledges from? And that means who is liable to pay the half shekel from Levites and Israelites, converts and freed slaves, but not women. Lonashim, remember we said that you have to be a man and you have to pass the census. Lonashim va'avadim uktanim, not women or slaves or minors. And the Mishnah just adds, Kol katan sheitchila v'lishkol al yado shuv eino posek. If a minor has a father who started to pay the shekel on his behalf, then okay, he doesn't discontinue. Ve'ein mamashkenin et hakohanim mipnei darkei shalom. And for the sake of peace, because of the ways of peace, we don't take pledges from the priests. So this Mishnah seems to suggest that priests are liable. But we don't go out and take a pledge from them because of the ways of peace. You know, the priests are working in the temple. We trust them. They're part of the temple service. We're not going to go out and chase them for the half shekel that they are due, even though they are due to pay the half shekel. At least that is the view in this Mishnah. But let's carry on going. Let's carry on going. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, Eid ben Bukri b'Yavne kol kohen she'shokel eino chote. Ben Bukri testified at Yavne that a priest who pays is not a sinner. What does that mean? What's Ben Bukri talking about? As far as Ben Bukri is concerned, a priest is actually fundamentally not required to pay at all. It's not just that we don't levy a pledge from the priest is not required. He can do it voluntarily, but he doesn't have to pay. And why not? Well, we said in order to be liable to pay, you need to pass the census. And we know, by the way, that the Kohanim were not included in actually the Levi'im, and the Kohanim were not included in the census. In that census carried out in Shemot, only the people who were essentially able to go out to war were included, and there was a completely separate count for the Levi'im. So maybe the priests aren't liable. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai disagrees. Now let's just remember for a sec, who is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? He's the Chacham who has exited Jerusalem hidden in a coffin after the Romans have laid siege, and he's gone to Yavne. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is setting up the if you like, he's setting up Jewish life after the temple. Jewish life where the role of a Kohen is kind of very much changed. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, law key, that's not how it works. A priest who doesn't pay the shekel is a sinner. And by the way, the Kohanim are interpreting scripture, are twisting scripture to their own ends. They're expounding this verse for their own financial benefit. And then they say, Kol minchat kohen kalil tiyeh lo teachel. Every meal offering of the priest shall be Kol minchat kohen kalil tiyeh. Every meal offering of the priest shall be wholly burnt. Lo teachel. So when a normal person brings a meal offering, some of it is available to the priest to be eaten. But when the priest brings the meal offering, it's completely burned. It's not eaten. So, priest's offerings can't be eaten. Ho'il ve'omer ushte halechem ve'lechem hapanim. So what about the omer and the 2 loaves and the showbread? Shelanu. Now, we know, the priest knows, by the way, that these are eaten. The omer and the 2 loaves and the showbread are absolutely eaten by the priests. And yet, they're from our contributions. So, rhetorically, they ask, how can they be eaten? But what they really mean is, look, we're not going to contribute to the temple offerings, because if we contribute, we're going to contribute to the omer and the 2 loaves and the showbread, and we know that contributions from priests can't be eaten. Therefore, the contributions don't include contributions from us. That's the drush from the priests. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai doesn't like it at all. And this is expanded in the Jerusalem Talmud in Shekalim. Amar Rabbi Yudah Ha'id, etc. Rabbi Yudah has said that all this testimony was made. Amar Rabbi Barachia. Amar Rabbi Barachia ta'amed Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai ze yitznu. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's reasoning was, this they shall give. This refers to the 12 tribes. All 12 tribes have to give. I'm not sure we totally understand how he drushes 12 tribes from Zeh, but the intent is clear. And then they expand. K'tiv kol ha'over ha'pekudim. The pasuk says, the verse says, kol ha'over ha'pekudim. We revise everyone who crosses the census has to give the half-shekel. And now there's a dispute between Rabbi Yudah and Rabbi Nehemiah. And one of them said, everyone who crossed the sea shall give. Called avar b'yama yiten. Everyone who is included in the miracle of the Red Sea has to contribute to the temple offerings. And the other said, and the other said, called avar al pikudaya yiten. The other said, everyone who crosses the count shall give. Okay, everyone who crosses the sea shall give. That line of reasoning supports Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Anyone who says everyone who's counted shall give, that supports that supports Ben that. Yeah, I'm sorry, I've just lost. That supports Ben broke. That supports. Sorry, I've just lost that. That supports Ben Covering, who takes the opposite view. And there's a fundamental issue at stake here about effectively the responsibility. What are the responsibilities of the Kohanim? Or what are the responsibilities of the priestly classes after the destruction of the temple? And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is clearly saying, look, if you're part of the people of Israel, if you cross the Red Sea, you're due to make a contribution. And Ben Kovri says, no, the priestly status remains. And perhaps this disagreement between Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and Ben Kovri is what lies behind the statement in the Mishnah that we don't go after the Kohanim for pledges because of Darkei Shalom, because of the ways of peace. Perhaps, there's a reflection of the fact that this argument hasn't been completely settled yet. And maybe it's not, even settled to the current day.